This is The Unhurried Mama, a space for mothers who are tired of holding it together and ready to actually land. I'm Michelle, and I'm a mom, a writer, but not an expert. I'm here as someone still figuring this out, doing it my way, and refusing to pretend it's perfect. Every week, we sit together and untangle one piece of the parenting knot. No tips or fixes, I promise. Just the mess, the science, and the path back to you. So pour yourself some coffee or tea, close the door, and let's begin right where we are. In the first 3 episodes, we were in the tornado, seeing it, naming it, and feeling the weight of what I'd been carrying. This week, we step into something different, the return. And I'm going to tell you about the afternoon my 9-year-old son ran into my office, shaking, convinced we'd have to move house, and what happened over almost 2 hours on my lap. I could hear him rushing up the stairs, his footsteps quick but with weight. He burst into my office with a quivering voice. I didn't know what had happened yet, but my body picked it up before my brain caught the words. This shift in the air when he walked in, like something heavy had entered the room with him. His hands were shaking, and his words came out in this frantic, tangled rush. Something happened, and his friend's family is going to hate him, and we need to move away from the complex. We need to move. That's when my stomach dropped. Because when a 9-year-old boy's solution to a problem is, we have to leave our home, he's not telling you about a broken window. He's telling you the shame is so big, he thinks the only way out is to disappear entirely. He started pacing my office, this tiny space, back and forth, with his hands out in front of him like a little T-Rex, fingers curled, arms tight to his body, and pacing, blurting and pacing and blurting. And then he'd stop, squeeze his eyes shut, open them again, like he was stuck in a nightmare and was trying to force himself to wake up. I'd never seen him like this. I said, Whoa, slow down, Bubba. It's okay. I'm here. Just breathe for a minute. I signaled for him to come sit in my lap. He did. And he curled up, buried his face in my chest, and started to cry. And I just let him. I didn't rush him. I didn't ask what happened. I kept my arms around him, my breathing slow, and my chest soft. I let his body do what it needed to do. Shake and sob and press into someone who wasn't going anywhere. I want to pause here, not in the story, but with you. Because this is the moment where everything I'd been learning and unlearning, everything I'd been practicing since the tornado days, either held or it didn't. A year or 2 earlier, I don't know what I would have done with a child this panicked in my arms. I think I would have matched his energy. I think my fear would have swallowed his fear and we both would have ended up spinning. But something in me had shifted, slowly, without me really even noticing. And on this day, it held. His panic walked into the room and my body didn't follow it there. I felt it. God, I felt all of it. But I stayed in my own skin. After a while, I asked him gently to tell me what happened. The story came out very slowly, but it didn't make sense. Details were jumbled, pieces didn't connect, and I could feel it. That particular quality of a story that's being managed instead of told. He was editing in real time, spinning the truth just enough to test whether a softer version might be enough to make the shame stop. I get it. I did the same thing as a kid. I think we've all done it. You offer the version you can live with and hope no one asks for the real one. But you always know with your own kids. There's a frequency to their honesty, and when it's off, your body feels it. So I said, gently, something like, Bub, I'm not sure you're telling me exactly what happened. And I think I know why. He looked up at me from my lap, and he gave me the face. If you're a parent, you know the one. That look when they're mid-fib and trying to calculate whether to keep going or surrender the whole performance. A look half in guilt, half in hope, but completely transparent. I told him I knew he was lying because he felt ashamed. That the shame was making him want to shrink the truth, make it smaller than it was, because maybe a smaller version wouldn't hurt as much. And then I said something I'd picked up from Brené Brown. I told him, shame loves secrecy. And then I had to explain what that meant, because, well, he was 9. There's something a little funny about quoting a research professor to a 4th grader mid-crisis. But honestly, he got it. I told him shame gets bigger the more we try to keep it hidden. It feeds on silence. And the bravest thing he could do, the thing that would actually make the weight lift, was to let the truth out. Even if it was scary, even if he thought I'd be angry. He was quiet for a long time, the kind of quiet where you can feel a child deciding. And then he started again. This time, he revealed one tiny piece at a time. At some points, he didn't want to say the word. And after already attempting a few times while covering his face with his hands in embarrassment, I asked him to write it down for me instead. He even so much as checked my face after every letter or sentence to make sure I was still safe. I'll share part of what happened because part of it is mine to tell. He was over at the neighbor's, playing with his friend. They had gotten curious and looked up things on YouTube that were way beyond what a 9-year-old is ready to see. The kind of rabbit hole that's 2 clicks away from any kid with unsupervised screen access. They tried to delete the watch history, but unsuccessfully. He was terrified I would be livid if I knew what they looked up, and the shame told him he was bad, and the bad told him we'd have to move, and suddenly a child's curiosity had become, in his mind, something unforgivable. There were other layers to the story, things that took time to surface. But those are his to share if he ever wants to, not mine. What I can tell you is that it took almost 2 hours for the full picture to emerge. 97 minutes of him on my lap. 97 minutes of my voice staying soft, slow, and compassionate. 97 minutes of me choosing over and over again to stay settled in my own body when parts of the story made my stomach tighten. I didn't lecture him at all. I didn't punish. I didn't say, "How could you?" or "What were you thinking?" And when the last piece of truth finally landed between us, when there was nothing left to spin or hide, I told him how brave he was. I want you to know how brave you are for telling me all of this, even when it was so hard to do. I told him how courageous it was to let me see him like this, vulnerable and terrified and shaking, and to tell me the truth anyway, even if it took what felt like an eternity. I told him that what happened was what curious kids do, that curiosity isn't something to be ashamed of, that the feelings he was having were big and real, and not a single one of them made him bad. I held him in that. No conditions or, but next time. Just, I see you, all of you, and you're safe here. And then he said it. This kid who almost 2 hours ago thought we'd have to move to another suburb. He looked up at me and said, "You made a safe space for me to tell you. Thank you, Mama." He was 9. He didn't know the term co-regulation. He'd never read a parenting book or listened to a podcast about nervous systems. But he named, in his own words, in a child's language, exactly what had just happened between us. You made a safe space for me to tell you. I don't have a more important sentence in my life than that one. An hour later, he was bouncing around the house, laughing, swinging on our homemade indoor jungle gym, annoying his sister, completely, unmistakably himself. And I sat there thinking, this is what it looks like when a child's body lets go of something it's been gripping. He wasn't fine because the problem disappeared. He was fine because the shame had somewhere to go, because he had been held long enough and steady enough that his nervous system could release what it was carrying. There's a name for what happened on that lap. It's called co-regulation. And it's one of the simplest and most powerful things you can offer your child. Your child's nervous system is still developing. It's still learning how to manage big emotions, how to come down from panic, how to move through shame without getting buried in it. And the way it learns is by borrowing yours. When my body stayed steady, when my breath was slow, my voice was low, and my arms soft, his nervous system was reading mine. I don't mean my words, but my body. And over 97 minutes, his system borrowed enough of mine to settle. But the part no one talks about is this. You can't offer something you don't have. If I hadn't done the work, the seeing, the feeling, the learning to stay in my own body when every instinct told me to leave it, I would not have been the mother with him sitting in that lap. I would have been the mother in the tornado. His panic would have triggered mine. His shame would have mirrored my shame. And instead of a safe space, I would have created another wound. And I want to be honest, co-regulation doesn't only happen in the big moments. Most of the time, it's so quiet you can barely notice it. A few weeks after the lap, my son was having trouble falling asleep. He'd seen something in passing on TV at a friend's house, but the image had stuck. A face. He said he didn't want to close his eyes because that's all he could see when he did. It was a long day. I still had work to get through. And a year earlier, that combination, tired kid, late night, unfinished to-do list, would have been enough to push me to my edge. I would have said something like, "Just close your eyes, bub, you'll be fine." Because I needed him to be fine so I could get back to my laptop. But I'd changed the structure of my life. I wasn't hustling the way I used to. I didn't have a launch or a deadline breathing down my neck. And because of that, I had space. Actual space. Not, I should be present, space, but space in my body. Room to sit with him on his bed without feeling the pull of something else. So I did. I sat with him, and we talked about what he could think about instead. Pikachu, eating teriyaki beef sushi rolls, and scenes from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And when that didn't quite work, I lay down beside him and let him curl into me until he fell asleep. That's co-regulation too. We didn't have a crisis on our hands, Nothing close to a 2-hour lap session. Just a mother with enough margin in her nervous system to be fully present with a scared kid at bedtime. And him feeling it, feeling the safety of her body next to his, and letting go. The reason I bring this up is because I think we hear co-regulation and imagine the dramatic moments, the meltdowns, the confessions, the 2-hour lap. And those matter enormously. But most co-regulation happens in the small, boring, Thursday night moments when you have just enough in the tank to stay. And the only reason I had enough in the tank was because I had stopped running my life at a pace that emptied it every single day, sometimes by noon. So here's what I want to leave you with this week. And it's not a practice so much as a question. I want you to think about the last time your child was struggling. Not like a grocery store, middle of the aisle meltdown kind of struggle, like a smaller struggle. Maybe frustration with homework or a friendship problem. Maybe it was also trouble falling asleep. And I want you to ask yourself, what was my body doing? Were you clenched? Were you half listening, one eye on your phone, mentally calculating how much time this was going to take? Were you already composing your response before they even finished talking? Or were you there, in your body fully, breathing, unhurried, with enough room inside you to hold whatever they brought? I'm not asking that to make you feel bad, not at all. I'm asking because I spent years in the first version, tense, half present, and managing my kids' emotions from outside my own body. And I didn't even know I was doing it. I thought being patient meant gritting my teeth and not yelling. I didn't realize patience could actually feel soft. And I still don't get it right all the time. There are nights when my son needs me and I'm tapped out, and the best I can offer is, I love you and I need my time right now. And that's okay too. I want to be clear about this. Co-regulation doesn't mean being endlessly available. It means being honest about what you have and offering what's real. Even if what's real is not right now, but I'm not going anywhere. So this week, if you want to try something, pick a moment with your child where you'd normally rush through it. Bedtime, a car ride, maybe a question they ask while you're cooking or doing the dishes. And instead of managing it, just be in it. Immerse yourself in it. Let it take as long as it takes. You could even hug them and let them be the one to pull away first. Notice what your body does when you stop trying to move things along. And notice what their body does in response. You might be surprised by how little it takes to have a slower gaze, a softer voice, or what it feels like to sit down with them rather than standing over them. And let it land. That's the whole thing sometimes. Next week, I'm telling you about the night my daughter spat at her brother, shredded my notes, and pushed me to the edge of every parenting instinct I had. And what happened when I chose to stay instead of react. If you've ever wondered whether your hardest kid is the one who needs you most, that one is for you. If this is landing, subscribe wherever you listen. Share it with one mom who needs to hear it. And until next time, stay. Even if everything inside you is pulling you away, even if you're not sure it's working, just Stay.